Alright, so now as you're kneading it, let's figure out why we added the warm water. Okay, so remember the yeast needs that moisture or water. It needs warmth. It needs a food source. So the warm water will dissolve the yeast, flour, and salt. Okay, so water has some key characteristics which allow it to do this. Okay, first thing is water is H2O, of course, two hydrogens with an oxygen. They're bound together with what's called a covalent bond. So they're sharing these electrons. Okay, so we're going to go over that a little bit more physical science, but biology kids, you guys know that already. All right, so but it's a polar covalent bond, which means it's got a negative. The oxygen likes the electrons more than the hydrogen does, so they share them unequally. So it gives that oxygen a slight negative. You guys keep eating, and it gives the hydrogen a slight positive. Okay, so that's polar covalent bond there. Now, lastly, salt. Last but not least, this is what's going to give it flavor. Nice flavor. If you have saltless bread, it's not very tasty. Oh man, this dough is feeling good now. All right, so salt is NaCl, so it's got sodium, which becomes a positive ion when it loses that electron. Chlorine gains it, becomes negative, so it's an ionic bond. So this is an ion, this is an ion. When they come together, they form an ionic bond. All right, so there you go. Then when you place it in water, though, water dissociates the sodium from the chlorine, so it kind of breaks it apart. The oxygens, which is negative, surround the positive sodium, and the hydrogens, which are positive, surround the negative chlorine. All right, so that kind of breaks the sodium chloride apart and dissolves it. Okay, water also dissolves the yeast and parts of the protein. Okay, but not all of it, because you see this is still somewhat solid. Okay, so that's a question for you guys: is this a solid or is this a liquid? Well, it's flowing, okay, but it kind of retains its shape. Okay, so that's up for debate, I guess. Okay, but again, salt will give you that flavor. All right, so we're going to continue this. Okay, then next step is, I would say, get my bowl here. Get a nice bowl here, and I would say grease it up a little, give a little bit of oil. You can just use, say, vegetable oil, but I have this little spray oil. So just spray in there. I'm going to place it in the pan here, or to the, just like that. Cover it with a dish towel. Okay, place it in a warm spot for about 1 to 1.5 to 2 hours. It should rise, okay, as that carbon dioxide is being produced by the yeast. Okay, it's in those little pockets, so it's almost like those pocket of gluten proteins. Okay, and of course, as it produces CO2, it's going to cause those pockets to expand. Okay, more CO2 is more expansion, so it should rise. So notice how big it is here, and then in a couple hours, it should rise somewhat. We'll come back and see.